Thematically, warriors are the sword and board standard tank that you would get in a fantasy realm. You are a big, beefy meat cake of damage that is able to soak up as many hits as possible, as well as main threat through yelling at your target and, insulting them, gaining their attention, and that's the standard kind of tank that we were dealing with here. A lot of their attacks feel very powerful as they're smashing the ground or slamming their shield up against targets. You really feel like you're affecting the world as you're cracking the ground asunder. With the rage-based resource system, you're also feeling standard kind of angry berserker tank. As you take damage and as you hit things, your rage goes up, which allows you to unleash more and more powerful attacks. So it really has a thematic feel of that just standard berserker, get in front of the enemies and soak up as much damage as you can. So what do they do best? Well, warriors have excellent mobility. With charge, intercept, shield charge, heroic leap, they're able to get around the battlefield and get to the targets that they need to get to or get to the places that they need to get to very quickly. They are also quite good at multi-target threat generation. Both Thunderclap and Revenge are just fantastic for hitting multiple targets and just keeping targets on you, especially when you take that Blood and Thunder talent and you're also stacking Rens on those targets. All of your enemies are just going to want to focus on you, and it doesn't really matter which one you're hitting, you're going to hold all of them. They also reduce more damage taken per attack than any other class. So when they're being hit by multiple fast attacks from either one target or from a multitude of targets, they're really good at mitigating that damage down and taking as little as possible. When played correctly, they have a really nice damage mitigation curve, and they're really easy to heal predictably. Your healer should get a good sense of how much damage you're taking and be able to keep you topped up relatively easily without any surprise chunks. And those big spell hits that might hit you can be spell reflected back to the boss, which again reduces the amount of spike damage that you take and makes you just really easy to heal. Now, warriors have little to no self-sustain capability, so they're not going to be able to just stand there and take damage without any attention from their healers like some of the other tanks can. They also struggle pretty heavily with ranged threat generation. Getting targets from a distance to them can be a difficult procedure for them, but they're able to get around the battlefield to collect them up rather easily, which shores up that weakness. So an easy to heal, highly mobile, and high threat generation tank is just a fantastic combination and makes Warrior one of the best tanks in the game. So now that you know that they're good, are they fun? Well, I've had somebody quote me that Heroic Leap is the absolute best ability in the game. So when you're playing your Warrior, you're going to have fun flying across the battlefield, charging into your enemies, locking them down with Shield Charge, Storm Bolt, Shockwave, and other spells that really stop your opponents from doing what they want to do. There's little more satisfying than seeing an opponent wind up a big spell only for you to spell reflect it back into their face. Finally, watch the amount of damage from your bleeds from Rend and Thunderous Roar just tick away at your opponents, as there's little that they can do to take down your own health. Overall, the funness of the Warrior is really just about flying through the air and charging into your opponents and just feeling like you are a menace on the battlefield. For rotation, Warriors, like other tanks, are mostly about priority. You need to keep shield block up as you're being hit by physical attacks, and you want to keep ignore pain up pretty much as often as possible. For damage, you're going to be using Revenge for slamming out as much damage as you can, as well as you're going to be using Thunderclap to spread out Rend, as well as just do a little bit extra bonus to all targets around you. Rage generation is really the key to keeping all these effects up and useful. Your main way to generate range is going to be hitting with Shield Slam. Other than that, you're going to have to find creative ways to be able to use Charge, Shield Charge, and Ravager to gain as much threat as you can. Some interesting tips as a warrior is that you can use Heroic Leap to quickly jump away from a boss and then charge back at them to generate the 20 rage from charge. You can also do the same theory with Intervene on targets that are about to take a chunk of damage, like a targeted boss effect. You can charge to that ally with Intervene, reduce the damage that they take, and then charge back at the boss to generate some rage. This is mostly done in raid settings when you are not actively tanking and you can move away without disrupting where the boss is. Although in some emergency scenarios, you're still just going to use this combo to quickly save an ally and get back to the boss. So just remember to try and be moving away and then charging back to generate rage when your rage is on the low and you really need more. Don't forget to use skills like Stormbolt, which has a relatively long cooldown, but does a decent amount of damage and is just a generally useful ability. Watch your 15, 20, 30 second cooldowns and try and keep them up as much as you can, because effects like Demoralizing Shout can make a huge difference in a boss fight if you aren't actively remembering to use it every 45-ish seconds or towards whenever the boss is using significantly powerful abilities. You might fall into a trap while playing the warrior, and that is using Whirlwind or Slam. Both of these abilities are absolute garbage compared to what Revenge can do, and you should just be using Revenge instead of those. You supply one of the few raid buffs in 5% attack for allies. Battle Shout is an integral part of being a warrior and a very important part of being added to teams. So make sure you get that Battle Shout out and get your allies that attack buff. You also have Rallying Cry, which is one of the few raid cooldowns. Giving temporary HP to your allies, this can help a lot in high chunk scenarios during boss fights. If your raid leader doesn't already have you scheduled to use it, make sure you are paying attention to good moments in boss fights to activate that skill. Shield Wall is your only long cooldown self-protection ability, so make sure you are very aware of proper moments to use this skill, as you are going to be a little bit more limited than some of the other tanks at ways to reduce the damage you're about to take from a big hit. So let's talk about talents. Warriors, for me, so far at least, I haven't tried every class, but Warriors have been the absolute hardest class for me to lock down what I want in the talent tree. There are so many excellent options, both in the protection points and in the warrior points, that I have absolutely struggled figuring out where I'm going to go. I really like Thunderous Roar, but I also like Spear of Bastion. I'm less a fan of Avatar, although I get why a lot of people like it. And then Shockwave is just so core to being a warrior that it's hard to not go down that route. Shield Charge is super fun on the warrior side, but getting Battle Scarred Veteran is also just such a fantastic pick. And then Ravager is an amazing threat generator, range damage, lots of rage. It's just such a cool ability, as well as it feels really good. And those are just the capstone or featured ones at the very bottom of the tree. There are so many options sprinkled throughout that you just can't even get all of them because you don't have enough points. So if you want to get Storm Throw, you don't get increased maximum rage, or if you want to get improved Heroic Throw, you have to give up maybe on Brace for Impact, which then locks you out of that whole other side of the tree. So making these tougher decisions has been really hard in the warrior. I've mostly gone the route of increased mobility. I made sure to get Heroic Leap, I made sure to get improved charging, and I made sure to grab Shield Charge. I also like the bleeds quite a bit, so I got the Blood and Thunder and I got Thunderous Roar. But that's just my personal preferences, and I don't feel like if you decided, oh, I don't really want the bleeds, I'm going to go for a Spear of Bastion build and Crackling Thunder, that you've made the wrong choice. I still think both of those are going to be valid, and I think this is going to be one of the hardest trees to actually just say, this is the best, this is what you should do, and don't do anything else. So I have a warrior spec up here. I'm going to put the link to that into the comments so that you can pop that in. This is what I'd recommend kind of starting out with and playing around with, especially if dungeons or raids is kind of your thing. But feel free to play around with it, as there are a lot of options throughout the tree that are very excellent choices and really just about feel or preference rather than actually being significantly better than anything else. So this wraps up what I have to say today. I hope that these insights, as well as showing some of these actions of the warrior, will help you figure out if you want to play this charging, jumping, roaring, smashing, taunting creature that is the warrior.